Cinema Classics is brought to you by the Gateway Film Center, 1550 North High Street, Columbus, Ohio. Further details and showtimes online at gatewayfilmcenter.org.
The award-winning Cinema Classics is produced by John DeSando and Johnny DiLoretto. Listen to the shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org. I'm Johnny DiLoretto.
I'm John DeSando.
This is Cinema Classics.
It is.
Soon to be Cinema Classic, probably. Right? Is this guy? This.
So you actually know who we're doing now.
Yeah, look.
Have you seen this guy before?
Obviously we're doing a show on Ben Affleck.
No. This is the problem with Casey is...
He looks, with his beard, he looks a lot more like Ben.
Yeah, he does, yeah.
Than he does without.
Yeah, because his face has a different angle to it when he doesn't have the beard.
Yeah, he's a lot more angular looking than Ben.
Yeah.
A lot more slender.
Yeah. But look, Casey wouldn't like us doing this.
I don't
he
care
wants
what
to stand. He wants to stand on his own because he's in a sure-to-be-nominated role.
Yes.
In Manchester by the Sea, in which he plays Janitor Lee, trying to come to terms with some of the big issues of life.
Yeah, it is a... well, this is from Kenneth Lonergan, who directed and wrote You Can Count on Me a few years back.
That's right.
Put Mark Ruffalo on the map.
Boy, yeah, good.
In a big way.
Yeah, eccentric family stuff.
Yeah, and then he floundered with a movie called Margaret, which I thought was saved in the editing by Scorsese.
Oh, all right.
But that movie had a long, kind of interesting shelf life. And so he sort of went back to the drawing board, and he comes back to us with this Manchester by the Sea, which is so full of ache. And yet,
yes, it is.
And yet, and laughter.
Yeah.
You know, it's such a cliche to say I was laughing, I was crying, but you know, I was pretty much in a constant state of swollen eyes. You know.
Well, yeah, you would, because there was so much that's evocative of you and either one of your sons in his relationship with the young nephew.
Yeah.
That he has to become the guardian because his brother dies.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some scenes, particularly on the boat. Naturally, it's going to be a boat. It's in New England. It's on the ocean, and there's some scenes there that are really quite cute, if you want to say that, between them, but shows that kind of relationship that you've always had with your sons.
Great
you talk to them, you know.
Well, yeah, but this guy's not talking to them.
But he talks in his own way, right?
Right. So let's talk about that a little bit, because that's, I think, is going to be what he's nominated for. Is he is dealing with a tragedy in his past that remains sort of mysterious throughout. So he has these deep, powerful emotions boiling inside of him, and they don't really ever come to the surface.
He's inarticulate.
Yeah, and so his portrayal here, his performance, is predicated on suppressing emotion and showing us we know what's happening with this guy. So how effective is it? It's interesting. He did an interview with Terry Gross on NPR on Fresh Air, and she said, "Boy, I was like, you seem to like show no emotion." And Casey Affleck said, "Really?"
Right, he was over the top.
I thought I was like really sort of overly emotional.
Well,
and that's, I think, what's interesting, because he knows what emotions the character has, but we can only guess.
And he, in that regard, he reminds me a bit of Brando and James Dean.
Mm-hmm.
Both in that mumbling, in that kind of interior, incendiary stuff that's maybe not coming out, but coming out only in the flex of a muscle or an eyebrow or whatever. And it reminds me of Joel Edgerton's current role in Loving.
Mm-hmm.
These guys who actually have such difficulty expressing.
Yeah, and that is a beautiful masculine movie trope, because, you know, men, I think, respond to characters who can't articulate their feelings.
Yeah, good.
Because on some levels, that's what we do as an audience. No matter what the character is, we often complete the emotion for the character.
Good.
That's why we usually cry at movies when the character isn't crying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When the character starts to get overly weepy, we probably are not.
Yeah, right. I mean, I weep all the time when my dates don't like the movies that I like. But, you know, and...
Now, they probably weep because when the credits come up, you're already gone.
No, I do stick around now for credits. You
do?
better,
Okay.
because you're going to miss part of the next movie.
We have the Marvel movies to thank for
Yes,
that.
but you know, remember way back when, and I think about Good Will Hunting, where he was together with his brother, though not obvious.
Yeah, in a minor
part. It was a minor part, but that's the beginning of, I think, a really beautiful relationship.
Yeah, from very early on, I felt that Casey Affleck had a weird screen presence. I don't think he was comfortable on camera. It didn't seem that he was comfortable on camera. He didn't seem to be an actor or a performer in the way that Ben was, a natural.
All right, Ben just ate up the screen.
You looked at that guy, and he knew, even before Ben Affleck became a really good-looking movie star, you know, he was this kind of pudgy character actor. Like you remember Dazed and Confused and movies like that. But he seemed to be clearly a guy meant to be on camera, and Casey Affleck did not. Yet somehow over the years, he has sort of matured into this really fascinating screen presence.
Right, and where his brother had ups and downs, such as the years with J-Lo, and some bad movie choices.
Yeah, Casey Affleck never suffered those.
Never he did.
Well, one, because he was not a star and never suffered that scrutiny. But also because he is in the shadows there. It has allowed him to explore more interesting, sort of offbeat choices. You'll remember Jerry from 2002.
Well, all right, now listen, that's with Gus Van Sant. And there's again another movie where nothing much is happening.
Yep.
These two guys are walking out in the desert, and yet I had a feeling that he was bringing more depth than Matt Damon could bring to it.
But it's also a great exercise for him. You know, it was a great, like, imagine, here's a movie where I'm just going to be on camera talking for 2 hours. And opposite a bona fide star, like Matt Damon. You know, in films like The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, that awkward sort of thing that he does.
With Brad Pitt as Jesse James.
Pitt, right.
What's not to love about that?
Well, a lot. When you think back.
But
it is an interesting movie, but it's a little soporific.
No, am I wrong if I guess that it was for that he had a nomination? Didn't he have one nomination prior to this, and it was
Casey
for that?
Affleck?
Yes.
That's your Google searching territory.
Yeah, well, I didn't search that.
I don't think that he's had a nomination.
Okay, so you think this may be his first one coming up?
Yeah, and this is a freight train of a nomination.
It is.
I don't see anybody derailing him at this point, from winning Best Actor.
Best Actor, yeah, that's true. Although, I might have put some money on Joel Edgerton, but that takes Casey Affleck to a whole different level of inarticulateness.
Yeah, right. It will be interesting to see if this movie can sustain that momentum that he has. And I mean, you know, I love this kind of stuff, right? So if he wins, if he becomes an Academy Award-winning actor,
would he be too young? That would be your thesis.
No,
because he's 30.
He has put this guy has paid his dues. This guy has paid his dues. But it will be interesting to see now that he becomes an Oscar winner when his brother has, you know, sort of won too early.
Well, what do you think about the Ocean's films? About him being in the Ocean films, how does that fit into your whole arc?
Those are fun little larks. Again, he's off to the side. Usually, I don't associate the Ocean's films with him. I'm not particularly a big fan of them anyway. But that sort of, you know, that Rat Pack-y feel, you get the sense that those guys are buddies and they're having a good time.
Yeah,
he's in there. Gone Baby Gone is probably the turning point for this guy, right?
2007.
Obviously, I think you're right to mention the Ocean's films because it gives him a chance to relax and interplay with these guys.
And exactly, and for us to identify him with the big stars, and to because he's not going to do it himself. Something needs to, and I think that kind of introduces him. He's part of the, he's like, you know, I don't know, you wouldn't call him Joey Bishop, but
now that I'm sure he would not like.
No, I know, but somebody like Johnny Carson.
Mr. Affleck,
Johnny Carson.
you realize if there was a Rat Pack today, you would be the Joey Bishop of them.
No, and I'm thinking when Johnny Carson was at Vegas with them and introducing the show with the Rat Pack, and they were merciless to him. But that would be the same kind of thing. But it does enhance his brand.
Mm-hmm. And it's just, again, practice. I think he's been slowly, quietly taking these roles that are not overly emotional. They don't demand a lot of him in the way of sort of, you know, demonstrative kind of behavior.
Yep.
But he slowly and quietly has become this really dynamic inward presence
and
on camera.
You know, there's going to certainly be nothing wrong with his bank account in the next few years. He is going to be doing a miniseries on TV as Meriwether Clark.
Mm.
Okay, and he has a film coming up called The Old Man and the Gun.
A variation of Hemingway's
I
story.
didn't know, right? It's set in the desert,
The
Western.
Old Man and the Gun. I don't know.
We don't know. Whatever it
Can't
is.
be the old man. Maybe he plays the gun.